U.S. Marines and sailors with the Chemical Biological Incident Response Force wore gas masks, oxygen tanks, and chemical suits today as they trained at National Stadium. Authorities say preparing for the unthinkable. In this case, a chemical weapons attack at the ballpark is challenging. But for the men and women whose job it is to respond to these types of terrorist attacks, training exercises like this one carried out today are critical. Major Mike Johnson with the response force says a key challenge is making sure local emergency responders are on the same page as the military units that are uniquely equipped to handle these types of disasters. The only way to overcome that hurdle, he says, is through training and repetition.
So on game day, there is no mistakes. It's a smooth transition, and we're able to quickly respond and help American people out.
And the military units on hand today have had real-world experience in these types of disasters. Some of the service members here at the ballpark were deployed earlier this year to help out in Japan after the earthquake there and the ensuing near meltdown at the Fukushima nuclear plant. In the district, I'm Patrick Madden.
December 13th, 2011. DARPA to fund butyryl cholinesterase expression in plants research. The use of chemical agents by enemy forces or terrorists poses a threat to the U.S. troops and civilian populations. New countermeasures against nerve agents remain a high priority research and development focus for the Department of Defense. Human butyryl cholinesterase, a bioscavenger that binds nerve agent in the bloodstream before it can affect the nervous system, has emerged as a potential new approach to reduce toxicity of chemical warfare nerve agents. A biological scavenger should have little or no behavioral or physiological side effects, which is an improvement over currently available treatments. And on January 20th, they're going to be hosting a Proposers Day workshop to provide information in the vision of the butyryl cholinesterase expression in plants research effort that seeks to develop and demonstrate blah 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 blah. This project will build on the DARPA Blue Angel H1 Influenza Vaccine Acceleration Program. If that doesn't sound creepy, I don't know what does. And again, they just posted this on the 13th of December. DARPA. Chemical agents, civilian populations, new research. You do the math. So, needless to say, I am feeling a little suspicious of DARPA yet again. And I realize they have these types of drills all the time and nothing ever comes of it. Just because they're having these drills doesn't mean that something's about to go down. I do, however, find it suspicious that all of this chemical weapon news is going on in the mainstream media and everything. Right as all these mystery chemicals are making people in our own country sick and going to the hospital, and they're left unsolved, and they don't follow up on them, and you don't hear anything else about it. You'd think they'd be a little bit more concerned. And they just leave it like that. So that tells me that if an entity of some sort is perpetrating chemical attacks on U.S. citizens in the U.S., then they're being given the go-ahead to go ahead and do that from higher-ups in the U.S. Nobody is doing anything about it. They're not treating it like it's a terrorist thing or anything that needs to be worried about. They're not even connecting the dots or anything. So, given the fact also that nobody has really died from any of these, they're just being tested on. Our country is very concerned about chemical weapons at the moment. And the only way to find out how a vaccine is going to work is to try to cure somebody who has what the vaccine is meant to fix. They need to test it in real life situations. That's going to be crowds of people. And where can you find a bunch of bodies, a crowd of people, on any given weekday in one area? That's going to be a school. Or it's going to be a marathon, like in Vegas, where 531 people at least were made sick by an unknown source, still unknown. That was on December 5th, 2011. Or in Houston, Texas, where upwards of 24 people at a high school football game became violently ill, and they just started throwing up and they couldn't stand up even.
Yeah, well, she was throwing up. My niece was throwing up.
They say no, they said that they cannot breathe.
Our top story, mystery illness, shortness of breath, dizziness, and nausea. Just a few of the symptoms that hit about 24 students during the Yates-Austin High School football game.
Yeah, witnesses say the illness has spread rapidly, and this morning officials are still trying to pinpoint the cause. A decontamination zone was set up at Barnett Stadium, and the facility was evacuated. 22 students were sent to 5 area hospitals.
Well, we do know that they like to do their little drills at stadiums. This is because if something really were to go down, a vacant stadium would be the ideal place to set up decontamination zones. And this one is still unsolved. So I'm really just going over some ideas in my head and thinking out loud with this video. I'm not trying to convince anybody of it. I'm just laying out the evidence that I see that is making me think that something weird is happening. Now, there are several of these events that seem to be earth changes, the ones that I haven't been reporting on, like whole towns overcome by some strange sulfur type of smell, or just mysterious odors plaguing towns, but not necessarily making people sick. That's for somebody else to research if you want to. I mean, it's out there. It's been happening. So that seems like maybe a crack in the earth, or who knows what could be happening in those cases. But in these cases where there's an event happening, there's a big crowd of people, and they're suddenly becoming ill with no cause found, it seems very much to me controlled releases, testing on people. Because if it wasn't a terrorist attack, then these people would be dead. They wouldn't be alive still. So they might be doing some type of research, trying to get the best vaccine or cure for biological chemical weapons. It's kind of ironic that they would test on their own people and harm them in the name of doing something that could potentially save lives. It's just completely ironic. And I'm sure in their heads they're thinking we're too dumb to handle that. We wouldn't understand, and there's no possible way that they can tell us we're doing this, because we believe that we have rights, and we would say no. We would beat the doors down of the White House and say no. That's why they wouldn't tell us. Thanks again for watching. Much love.